1, 2.
Baltimore Metro.
You ain't gotta yell.
11930.
Subway cars, the newest wrinkle in Baltimore's mass transportation plan. It's a big gamble. Nearly $1 billion in tax money is riding on this stretch of tracks between Charles Center and Reisterstown Plaza. What are its chances for success? And are we on schedule to complete future mass transit projects? Kevin Brown will get the answers to these and other questions coming up in the next half hour of Baltimore Metro, the 8-mile stretch.
Good evening. 1 week from today, Baltimore embarks on a new era of rapid transit with the official opening of the subway, known as the Baltimore Metro. The 8-mile line is the first leg of an ambitious new regional transportation system. After $800 million and years of construction, the Baltimore subway has arrived. It is only the first 8 miles of the subway system that is about to open. It will carry passengers from the Reisterstown Plaza shopping center in northwest Baltimore as far as Lexington Market and Charles Center downtown, a 16-minute ride. Many of the streets above the subway were torn up for years by the construction, but MTA officials say it will all be worth it because the cars and buses people use now are just not as efficient in moving large numbers of people.
Immediately, one thing that a subway system will accomplish is it will open up a new opportunity for people to move more freely into and out of the city. That in turn eventually translates itself into more jobs, into more development, and into allowing a city to grow above what it may grow if you simply kept a bus system in. This is an example in Washington, D.C., when they've built their metro system now and it's been operating for a couple of years. They've just finished some studies recently and found out that the travel into and out of downtown has increased significantly in the last 8 or 9 years. Jobs have gone up like 30%, but automobile traffic has remained fairly static.
In fact, the city is already seeing some subway-related development. Near the Lexington Market Station, the Murdoch Development Company of Los Angeles is building millions of dollars worth of offices and stores in the city's old retail district.
A subway station, like any other center of transportation, when you get a lot of people moving in and out of one point, it's going to create new economic activity, and it's going to have a big impact.
The next and last stop, Reisterstown Plaza. Reisterstown Plaza is the next and last stop.
Part of the 8-mile stretch is above ground, the Reisterstown Plaza, Rogers Avenue, and Cold Spring Lane stations, but most of the system is underground. My first impression on riding the subway is how it feels, and it feels pretty good. There is a little bit of swaying back and forth, and there's sort of a swooshing noise as the subway goes through the tunnel, but by and large it is very smooth and very quiet. Each station is announced before the train pulls in. When it's ready to pull out again, bells sound a warning. The Metro ceremonially opens this coming Saturday, with the real pay-to-ride opening the following Monday.
And I do anticipate that during the first couple of weeks and couple of months, we may have at times lines of people in stations purchasing tickets and needing questions answered in order before they learn how to do it. And in anticipation of that, we're going to have lots and lots of people out there, of our own people, staff people that'll have little MTA badges on, and that will be available in stations near ticket machines and everything to help answer people's questions. And that'll continue for the first couple of weeks of the system.
Wagner says riders aren't the only ones likely to have problems when the subway opens. He says the MTA, despite weeks of preparation, will also have a few headaches of its own.
There's a shakedown period that sometimes lasts several months, where there will be occasional equipment failures and there will be occasional disruptions of service. That's almost inevitable. And hopefully, for the most part, the public won't be able to be impacted by those and won't even know that they're happening. But there will be occasions where a train will fail and or a train will show up later than it's supposed to. And the more likely scenario would be that instead of a 4-car long train showing up at a station, a 2-car train may show up because of an equipment problem, which would mean that the schedules would be met, but the trains may be more crowded at certain times. Those things happen in every system when it opens up, and I'm sure they'll happen here.
A strike caused the company that manufactures the subway cars to fall behind schedule. Also, Baltimore and Miami had a joint contract with the company, and because of that delay, Miami is getting some of Baltimore's cars. As a result, Baltimore is getting fewer cars for its shakedown period than originally planned. And that's one reason the Metro will only be running from 5 in the morning until 8 at night, and not at all on the weekend.
Lots of people will be working on Saturdays and Sundays to correct those problems so that on Monday through Friday, when most of the people need to use the system, it will be operating properly. And if we jump in and start operating 6 and 7 days a week, we take away those days when you can keep equipment in the shop and work on it and have it ready for Monday morning.
Will the time come when you'll have weekend service?
Oh, yes. Oh.
Wagner says it may take several years, but eventually the Metro will run 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he says even late at night or early in the morning, the subway will be safe.
Not only will there be uniformed police officers, both MTA and city police, that will be constantly dealing on the system, on the cars, in the stations, but there are TV surveillance cameras in various parts of the station that the station agent will be there all the time. There will always be employees of MTA in the stations, open spacious stations, very little areas that are not very well lighted and very open.
Wagner says security in Baltimore's Metro will be similar to security in Washington's Metro.
That the crime level in the subway system in Washington is significantly lower than anywhere on the street. And in fact, there have been many instances in Washington where criminal activity has occurred on the street and the perpetrator has been caught because he went into the subway.
Also like Washington Metro, the Baltimore stations are large with high ceilings, long escalators, and attractive art. The Metro also has safeguards built into the system to protect against collisions. What happens, for example, if the operator has a heart attack while the train is moving?
If he has a heart attack while he's driving the train and releases his hand from that lever, the train stops automatically. It just comes to a stop wherever it's at.
And even if the lever gets stuck, a computer would step in to prevent a catastrophe.
As soon as he entered an area that was anywhere even close, within a quarter of a mile or a half a mile of where that other train was setting, the computer would cut his train out. It would stop him automatically. Whether he tried to do it or not, he couldn't do it.
Wagner says statistically, subways are safer than cars, planes, buses, and trains. All in all, he says, it's a good deal.
Suppose someone lives in the area around Reisterstown Plaza, shopping center. To drive your car downtown today will probably take you about 40 minutes if you come straight down Reisterstown Road or Liberty Heights. You could probably do it in 35 or so if you wanted to work your way over to Jones Falls and come down to Jones Falls. Once you got downtown, you'd have to park your car somewhere and probably pay anywhere from a couple dollars to as much as $5 or $6 a day, depending on where you park. And then you do the same thing going back home in the evening. To use a subway system, even if you parked your car at the station and walked in and just missed the last train that went downtown, you could probably take a trip that at the most would be 20 to 25 minutes from almost from the time you left your car until you walked out of the station in downtown for 85 cents each way.
And coming up in this half hour, we'll hear from some planning people who will tell us if we're on the right track with our mass transit program. Next, we'll get some information that every passenger can use before riding the subway. MTA officials are sure to have a few butterflies in their stomachs on the day the subway opens. One of their major concerns is that passengers trying the system for the first time find it a pleasant experience. To make it easier for riders, the MTA worked with Channel 2's Andy Barth on an instructional tape that explains the ins and outs of riding the subway.
This tape will tell you how to use the Baltimore Metro. It is provided in the community interest by WMAR-TV, Channel 2 in Baltimore.
Welcome to the Baltimore Metro. The system is designed to be convenient and easy to use for all passengers. There are 5 simple steps in taking a ride on the Metro. First, you need coins to buy a ticket, unless you have an MTA monthly pass or token. If you don't have coins, use the bill changer machines and exchange your $1 or $5 bill for Susan B. Anthony dollar coins. Next, go to the ticket machine to choose your ticket. There are 4 different types: one-way or round trip, with or without bus transfer privileges. To buy your ticket, press the button for your destination and the type of ticket you want. After you press the button, look at the small TV screen on the ticket machine. It tells you your ticket type and cost. If you have made a mistake, just press the red Cancel button and start again. If the screen is correct, put the proper fare into the slot marked Coins. Once the correct fare is deposited, the ticket machine will give you your ticket from the slot below. Your change will be returned. Next, go to the fare gates. You'll see green arrows on some machines. Go in any gate with a green arrow. Put your ticket or pass in the red slot on your right near the top of the gate. Your ticket will appear at the other end of the same gate. Walk through the turnstile and get your ticket. You'll need it again to leave the Metro at your destination. Trains arrive on the platform level of each station. Stand back from the edge of the platform as the train arrives. Let passengers leave the train before you get on. All trains have maps of the Metro system to help you, and each station is well marked. Once you arrive at your destination, you must leave through the fare gates. Again, use the gates with the green arrows. If you have used your ticket value, your ticket won't reappear. Push the turnstile and walk through. If your ticket does reappear at the end of the gate, get it back and go through the turnstile. Your ticket is either your monthly pass or it includes your bus transfer. In any other case, your ticket will reappear, but you won't be able to get through the turnstile. You have passed into another fare zone, and you'll need to take your ticket to the station attendant, who will tell you how much more fare to pay. A station attendant is always on duty in every Metro station to help you if you have any questions. Have a good trip.
How to use the Baltimore Metro has been provided in the community interest by WMAR-TV, Channel 2 in Baltimore.
And passengers using the subway can view that tape at each of the 9 stations on the subway line. Now, opening ceremonies for the system are on Saturday, November 19th at the Charles Center Station. Regular service begins Monday the 21st. The trains will run from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. No weekend service, at least for now. During morning and afternoon rush hours, the trains will run every 8 minutes. During off-peak hours, every 10 minutes. The fare for a one-way trip from Charles Center to Reisterstown Plaza is 85 cents. Kids 6 and under ride for free. Incidentally, fares for the subway and the MTA are the same. It will cost you 10 cents to transfer between the two. Coming up next, we'll find out about plans to expand the subway system. In spite of all the attention, the subway is only 8 miles of an area-wide transportation plan that's been researched and developed by the Regional Planning Council. Those members include the chief executives of area counties and Baltimore City. Honora Freeman is chairperson of the committee's Transportation Committee, and she is assistant to the chief administrator of Baltimore County. Joel Reitler is director of the Transportation Division of the RPC. Thank you both for coming in this evening. Nice to have you. Let me ask you, first of all, we've done a story here on the subway. I enjoyed my ride tremendously when I was on it. But by the time it's expanded to Owings Mills, it will cost $1 billion. Is it worth it?
Yes,
why so?
I believe it's worth it because the economic benefits to the region are very, very substantial. I believe Honora can attest to the fact that the growth expected in the Owings Mills area alone is just tremendous.
And there are other advantages, aren't there, beyond the economic advantages?
The travel congestion in a corridor such as the Northwest Corridor is substantial, and a facility like the subway and the ultimate extension to Owings Mills will relieve that congestion and allow growth in that corridor which may not have been able to occur.
And what about pollution and fuel efficiency? Are they also reasons? Are they big factors?
Yes, they are. They all enter into the decision to proceed with a regional transit system in addition to the bus system that we now have. It's considered that the air quality and energy impacts are in fact substantial in removing automobiles from the transportation system and replacing them with people in transit.
Let me ask you this. When the subway starts operating, are we going to see perceptible differences in the amount of traffic on the streets of downtown Baltimore or on the streets of Owings Mills and so forth? I mean, will we actually notice a difference?
I think on the streets of downtown Baltimore, the impact will be hardly perceptible to the average person just because of the mix of traffic from the entire region in the downtown. I think in the corridor that is being served, there will be a substantial reduction in automobile traffic.
Between Owings Mills and downtown?
That's right, because surveys that we've done demonstrate that people, in fact, who are not now riding the bus will be willing to ride the subway once it's in operation.
And you've done surveys on this?
Yes, we have.
Let me ask you one more question before we get into the future plans. What took Baltimore so long? D.C. has an extensive subway. Washington, New York, and Philadelphia have had one for years. Atlanta has an extensive one. San Francisco. We are finally getting one in Baltimore, and it's only 8 miles long. What took Charm City so long?
I think part of it is in the fiscal realities of the times we're in. The decision was made as much as 20 years ago to proceed with the implementation of a regional rail transit system. However, at the time we were ready to start with our initial phase, we were encouraged by the federal government to implement a system incrementally rather than all at once because of the monies that would be available to implement that system. We proceeded along that course with the idea of having one line under construction, one line under study at all times, with the hope, rather optimistic hope, that monies would continue to be available all along and eventually we would be able to implement an entire system within 20 years or so. Fiscal realities are as they are now. That wasn't possibly the best way to go just because the monies now are not as available as they were earlier.
Reagan?
Reagan enters into it. He's not as anxious to fund rail starts in areas which don't have existing rail systems.
And I take it the other cities, Washington, Atlanta, San Francisco, chose not to stretch it out, but chose to go ahead.
That's right, and perhaps the political situation for those cities was more fortuitous and allowed them to proceed with a whole system at the same time.
Let me ask you one question about Baltimore County. We've already discussed the advantages to Owings Mills, but by and large, this system, the subway, will be in Baltimore, and the extension, which we'll talk about a little bit later, will also be in Baltimore. Why is it to the county's advantage to have all this subway construction?
Well, Baltimore County and precisely our county executive, Don Hutchinson, really thinks it adds to the regional economic growth to have a subway system coming out into the county. Owings Mills is one of our 2 growth management centers, one of the 2 centers in the county where we are trying to channel growth, have it take place in the most efficient manner, have facilities in place before the development takes place, try to cut down on the urban sprawl that we've allowed to take place over the last 10 or 20 years. Owings Mills is one of those 2 growth centers between the Northwest Expressway and the metro system coming out there. We expect a tremendous boost in the economy to the region. That's good for Baltimore. It's good for Baltimore County, it's good for the region, and Don Hutchinson really thought that was the way to go, and he and the mayor and other elected officials worked very closely to produce this agreement. We expect that there will be an additional 15,000 jobs in the Owings Mills area when this system is complete and development has taken place. It means added retail sales in the facilities around the transit station. It means added revenues because property values go up. It means added income tax coming into the local government and added sales tax. All of that is good for our economy. It all makes it a much more progressive area in which to be living. Okay. We're very happy about it.
I can tell. Let's talk about the future. And as I said a short time ago, the subway that is opening up in a week, and even the Owings Mill extension, is only a part of an area-wide plan. You've got a graphic here, Joel, you can use. Give us an idea, if you will, as to just what the long-range overall plans are for the metropolitan Baltimore area.
Okay. Our regional development plan, the 1982 version, still contains a 6-legged transit system for the Baltimore region. What we see here is the metro system, which is due to open within the week. The extension to Owings Mills, which we expect to be online by 1987. Another line that we are pursuing is the North Corridor. We've just finished a very extensive study of alternatives in the North Corridor from Penn Station all the way to Hunt Valley in Baltimore County. The decision was made to proceed at this time with a busway alternative from Penn Station area, North Avenue area, to the city line, as this being the most feasible alternative at this time. We're keeping the option open that at some point in the future we may, in fact, build a light rail or a rail line all the way to Hunt Valley, but for now, the extension of a busway to the city line is the most feasible alternative.
And what do you mean by busway?
A busway is a facility which, in this case, is a facility which will parallel I-83, the Jones Falls Expressway, and provide access only to buses from City Line down to Penn Station. It's an exclusive facility only for buses to allow the movement of a large amount of people very easily.
So it's quicker because only buses will be used.
That's correct. Right? That's correct. We're also pursuing a northeast extension of the subway, metro from Charles Center out to Hopkins Hospital at this time, and ultimately out to the Stadium Clifton Park area. We have secured funding. We feel fairly good about funding to the Hopkins area, and we are exploring alternatives all the way out on this 3.3-mile extension. In addition, we have as alternate lines under study the West Line to the Social Security Administration area in Woodlawn, and also the East-Southeast line to Sparrows Point, out Eastern Avenue and down Dundalk Avenue. The 6th line of the subway is a south line, which we don't show here because it's really not in an active status at this time. It was very active several years ago when we were pursuing the implementation of Metro Section A, and at that time citizen opposition was such that the decision was made to defer this line. We've reevaluated the options in this corridor, and we've deferred this line for the time being. Nevertheless, we are keeping options open by, for instance, the I-97 construction that will take place on Maryland 3 south of the Beltway,
So
we'll
you
be
might
able
have
to
it sometime in the
facilitate
future.
transit. That's right.
The blue line there is also a potential subway line, is it? Is that right?
That's right. This would be a subway facility, very expensive because of the subway construction.
What if we get all of this? If we get everything that you have on your map there that you'd like to get, how long will it take us, do you think?
Everything that's shown here could take as long as 35 to 40 years, to be quite honest, just because the funding that is available is only available for the busway and this much of an extension in the northeast. Other than that, funding is uncertain at this time and clearly not available that we can see.
On the issue of funding, is the money right now available? Is there any doubt in your mind about, first of all, the Owings Mills extension and also about the extension to Hopkins Hospital?
We feel very good about the money being available for the Owings Mills section. You recall several years ago we withdrew a section of I-70 from the interstate system, and we are now using some of those monies to finish the Owings Mills extension. In addition, we've just recently negotiated agreement among the local jurisdictions in this region to withdraw sections of I-83 and 595 from the interstate system, and with those monies we will be building the busway and the northeast extension to the Hopkins Hospital area. Beyond that, funding is not available at this time.
What kind of a difference, and we're just about out of time, we've discussed the importance of the subway. Here you're talking about more subways, you're talking about busways and so forth. How much of a need is there? How will Baltimore differ if we get all this than if we don't get it?
I believe implementing a regional transit system, as we see here, will make Baltimore region a much more attractive area for industry, for economic development. I think the region as a whole will benefit from implementing a system of this type, not to mention the increased mobility for citizens in all of these very congested corridors that you see on our plan.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank both of our guests, Nora Freeman and Joel Reitler of the Regional Planning Council, for being with us this evening. I also want to remind our viewers that regular subway service gets underway Monday, November 21st. The trains start running at 5 in the morning. This next week, there will be a string of ceremonies and ribbon cuttings at each of the stations along the line, ending in the official opening of the subway Saturday at Charles Center. Afterward, from noon to 4, the MTA offers free subway rides to anyone who's interested. And next week at this time, Susan White Bowden will be here with a program that asks who's winning the war on drugs. Thanks for joining us. Good evening.
Should be going from home numerous times, but I'll stop by and see if we get any additional.